The following is a Cartoonerific Studios presentation.
Welcome to Cartoon Fun, it's Cartoonerific. Yeah!
It's Cartoonerific. Cartoonerific. It's Cartoonerific. With your host Brian Mitchell.
Well, welcome to the Cartoonerific Podcast, Classic Animated Cartoons. I am Brian Mitchell, and I am back. Yes, we're back, and better than ever, hopefully. Anyway, I needed the break over the last couple of weeks because we were running low on interviews, and we needed to drum up some interviews for the podcast. And so that was kind of the focus over the last couple of weeks, just doing that. And we got some really wonderful guests coming up, as well as today. We have an excellent guest today, and I'm so proud that she was able to do this. But we'll get to that in a second. But like I said, wonderful stuff coming your way. So please stay tuned, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I don't know if you've heard, there's some news this week, and this will probably be on the Cartoonerific news too. MeTV has decided to do a 24-hour cartoon channel. It's going to feature all your favorites. I think Tom and Jerry and the Looney Tunes and, maybe the best of Hanna-Barbera, Flintstones, and a lot of different things. I think even Freakazoid is going to be on there. So, they have their pick of the litter, and they partnered really with Warner Brothers Discovery to do this. And so that's pretty neat. And, you think that maybe somebody would have come up with this idea before of a 24-hour cartoon channel. Yeah. Anyway, so, part of the reason, my workload has kind of increased because I'm doing another podcast. I'm doing it with Marjorie, who does the Cartoonerific News. And this is a little bit different than the Cartoonerific podcast. We're doing a podcast called Back to Paranormal. And what that podcast is really about, I've had experiences through the years, ever since I was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And I've had a lot of things happen over the years. I've had premonition dreams, and I've had some really remarkable things happen to me in the last, I would say, 20 years. Things that I cannot explain. And they are just totally, and there's no way of explaining it away. I've tried. I've really tried. And I am a skeptic. So I don't take everything at just what's thrown at me. I try to figure it out, but too many things have happened. And so I am writing a book, and I'm maybe about 7/10 of the way through it. So it's shaping up to be an interesting read, but it has, because I worked in animation, it has a lot of animation elements to it. There are a lot of things that happened in the field as well. Like I said, the podcast is basically, we'll be talking about some of those experiences through the way, and we do in the first couple, definitely. But it is a podcast where basically Marjorie and I talk about this stuff, and then we'll review and some of the shows that we like that are about these paranormal things that happen. It's a light show. It's I think it's fun. I've had a couple of people listen to it that really like it a whole lot. And so, please check that out if you get a chance. It's called Back to Paranormal. It's available on Apple and not YouTube Music yet, but it's iHeart has it, and Spotify, and a lot of the other services they have it. So please tune into that. It's called Back to Paranormal, and new episode every Tuesday night. So please check that out. Anyway, we have a wonderful guest on today. She's really a great great artist. She's a wonderful animation artist, and we're going to be talking to her in just a bit. Her name is Linda Miller, and we'll be right back right after this.
The Cartoonerific podcast is now available on Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Alexa, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, Player FM, Apple Podcasts, and many, many others. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. A new Cartoonerific podcast is uploaded every Friday. And now it's time for our special Cartoonerific guest.
Well, this lady that we have on today, when I joined the Sullivan Bluth Studio, it was at the end of All Dogs Go to Heaven. I was in awe of all the talent that was there. We had John Pomeroy, amazing animator. Let's see, Lorna Pomeroy Cook, also an amazing animator. Ken Duncan was there. And just a wonderful, wonderful, talented group. And I got in there and I was just in awe and starstruck by all of them. But I ended up sitting at a desk right next to absolutely amazing animator, master animator. She's a storyboard artist, designer, just absolutely wonderful in the stuff that she could bring alive on paper. And I'm so happy that she's been able to spend some time with us today. Please welcome master animator, storyboard artist, designer, wonderful, wonderful artist, Linda Miller.
Hello.
Linda, you are one of the finest artists and one of the most amazing animators ever. And I know you transitioned. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I mean,
we sat.
I look at my work and I mostly see the flaws.
I think everybody does.
You sort of give up your right to like animation when you actually start doing it.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time like, okay, so we're gonna go back in a minute, but I'm just gonna ask you this question because it's just coming. Has there ever been a piece of animation that you've done that you were like, you amazed yourself? Like, wow, that's better than I thought it would ever be.
Yeah. There is a scene in Secret of NIMH where Mrs. Brisby and the crow have I think they just escaped from the cat. And they're just talking, and did you do? It's not over animated, which it tends to be my downfall.
Well, I think people tend to exaggerate the actions and stuff. They tend to over exaggerate in order to kind of bring it up. Maybe I'm not expressing myself too well, but.
And quiet scenes are hard because you sort of think you got to keep this thing going or people will get bored.
Right.
But it's actually the opportunity to just act. I did a scene in All Dogs Go to Heaven. Along sort of the villain, this evil pit bull named Carface.
Yes.
And the storyboards that I was given, and Don had drawn them, had him doing all sorts of weird, exaggerated things. He was standing on his head, and he's like musing about how he's going to kill his rival, Charlie the dog. And I thought, I'm going to ignore Don's storyboards. It was a perilous choice, but I thought that just seeing him thinking to himself would be entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And of course, Don got mad.
Right.
But he did eventually admit that it was probably better.
Right. Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
I can live with probably.
Yeah. Let's go back, because
Cast your mind back.
go back into the old time machine.
Yeah.
And let's go back into your childhood. Where were you raised? You were
Here. I am a Valley girl, but the accent actually developed after I was grown up.
I see.
Yes.
So what town did you grow up in?
There was still farmland in the Valley.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it was undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, when I came out to California, I think it was 1981 when it came out, and I visited the studio. The first time I actually went to the studio and was there for a week.
Are we talking about Disney?
No, well, I visited Disney too, but no, this was a Bluth studio.
Oh, okay.
And then I came out maybe 10 years later, and there were a lot of change. There were a lot of changes.
My studio then.
No, it was it was over at Secret of NIMH. It was over in Ventura,
yes.
Ventura, behind the bank building,
behind the Iranian restaurant where we spent the hostage crisis.
Oh my God, interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of changes in the 10 years that
absolutely.
Yeah,
that building isn't even there anymore. It's now a parking lot.
Oh my God. It was a great. I thought it was a great studio.
It was, you know, it was just a little inadequate, which is kind of right where you want it to be in terms of morale.
Right. I think you had.
You think of the studios that are kind of overdone, like DreamWorks has like all those rooms and wooden doors and stuff.
Right.
And, Nickelodeon was done in googie.
Mm-hmm.
And Cartoon Network was a little more austere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the old Disney studio was pretty...
That was nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty spread out, which was...
Yeah, it was. And... the third floor was already sort of given over to production people.
Wow.
And of course, eventually they chased all the animators out, and now it's like all production offices.
It's all production offices, and Walt Disney's office is back in there now. So.
Oh yeah, well, this is an exhibit.
I know. So where'd you live in? I know you said you grew up here, but in the Valley, what town did you grow up in? And
well, let's see. My early childhood was in Reseda.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was about 10, we moved to Woodland Hills.
Oh, okay. It's a nice area.
I'm local. And that's kind of important because my dad was, charitably, I'd have to call him a failed musician.
Oh, okay. What did he play?
He came out to California.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he thought that he was going to be a songwriter.
Right.
But he was not... he was kind of insufficiently selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had a wife and family, and the wife and family kind of demanded that he support them.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't, he literally was not selfish enough to just ignore them and pursue the music thing.
Right.
But he was interested in art, and the fact that his daughters seemed to be good at it was was kind of a delight to him.
Right.
And he loved cartoons. So he and his little daughter would sit in the den and watch the Disney cartoons on Sunday,
mm-hmm.
and the the Warner Brothers cartoons on, I forget what day, and the Jay Ward cartoons.
Right.
And all this stuff ran in prime time back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would recite it over my head like Darth Vader, that I would grow up and go to work for Walt Disney. It was like my childhood destiny and curse at the same time.
Yeah. Do you feel it was forced on you or
No,
just suggested?
It seemed like a thing that I was interested in, that I could be good at.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could make the right connections,
Right.
it was a thing I could see myself doing all my life.
Right. What the Warner Brothers cartoons? Which ones did you really like? I mean, I kind of know, but
well, I have worshipped at the throne of Chuck Jones.
Yeah, Chuck was great.
Yes, but you have to also remind yourself that Chuck was a collective.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw that as soon as he left Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he got to MGM, all the mannerisms came out. He put eyelashes on Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
And his timing and his smugness came out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
and that it's kind of a good lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because really good animation is like baseball. It is a game that you cannot play by yourself.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think there's only one person that could make that claim. And I think that would be Tex Avery, that he was kind of a one-man band.
Absolutely. He could be funny for the cheapest house in town.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made cheap Walter Lance cartoons on a budget.
And they were funny.
Very funny.
Yeah.
He just knew funny. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that he could do, he could make the funny drawings.
Mm-hmm.
He could edit the funny drawings into funny continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not expensive. It's just having the guy that has the eye.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it took me a while to realize that. But, I came to the conclusion after seeing some things done, like Snoopy. I always bring this up, Snoopy Come Home, which is not expensive animation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's some very funny.
Jay Ward was a very cheap house.
Oh, yeah.
He had brilliant comedy.
Yes. And believe it or not, some of my favorite Disney films are the limited animated ones that, like Paul Bunyan and Saga Windwagon Smith.
Yeah, they're very stylish.
They're stylized and they're economical, and they play like crazy. They're wonderful films.
Those top-down elements, if you have the story, if you have the track, if you have the cutting, it will work with finger puppets.
Yeah.
Don was kind of obsessive about a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And story wasn't one of them.
Yeah. I agree. It's a very sensitive area for me because I don't want to, because there are people that really love The Secret of NIMH. And
it's arguably his best work.
Yeah. I say it's his best work.
Yeah. Although we had an awful lot of fun on the games.
Yeah. Well, you could see it.
Yeah.
You could see it when you watch it, it's fun. And you could see the animators were really having fun with the expressions and the poses. And
well, once we discovered that we could kill people.
Yes.
It was we can do this. It'll be the most violent animation since the Tom and Jerry's. And there's no standards and practices.
Right.
I kind of waged war on standards and practices when I was on Sophia the First.
Oh, wow.
I designed an equivalent of a Chinese character, a Chinese princess.
Right.
And it took them 6 months to notice that she had bound feet.
Oh.
Then I got a note that, make the princess's damn feet bigger, please. And, well, all right. Well, I like a joke with a long fuse.
Yeah.
But I kind of do wish that they, didn't cast quite so sharp an eye on stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it took them a while to actually discover it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I put the occasional celebrity into an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah, Jamie Mitchell,
no relation, by the way.
No, discovered one by accident because I had an episode where Cedric had to go and visit his parents who were technically dead, but actually lived in kind of an assisted living facility for old and decrepit wizards.
Right.
So I filled the place up with old comedians.
Oh, that's great.
So Carl Reiner,
Mel Brooks.
I tried. I think they caught on to him.
Sid Caesar, maybe, or
no, not Sid Caesar, but Buck Henry.
Buck Henry.
My dad turned me on to.
Right.
What is the name of the actress who played Frau Blucher?
Oh, Madeline Kahn.
No.
Cloris Leachman.
Cloris Leachman,
Sorry.
exactly.
Yes.
I
just watched Young Frankenstein a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I had the two fat ladies who were doing a cooking show at the time.
Oh.
And I put them, the two old witches with their cauldron, but somebody in a meeting recognized them, and Jamie said, "No, we can't do that.
We can't do that." Yeah. Why not? It's just caricature,
Well, yeah, that's the argument from authority, and that always annoys me. It's like.
Well, it's parody.
No studio I have ever worked with cared a damn for historicity.
Right.
Of course, I remember on Space Jam, an animator named Joe Suggs was trying to argue for putting Hitler in Space Jam because on the undeniable grounds that he was in more Warner Brothers cartoons than the Tasmanian Devil.
I guess that's in his head that was a qualification, I guess. So
yes. Yeah. However, producers don't think that way.
Right. Yeah.
And that didn't go.
Yeah. Well, poor Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, damn, he's not getting any work these days.
So, okay. So we're going to step
back. Where
the
hell were we?
We're going back to the past. We're going back to the time.
Yeah.
That's all right. So when you decided you wanted to go into this field, when did you decide that you wanted to become an animation artist, an animator?
Oh, pretty early on. I seem to remember showing up at Filmation, which was in my neck of the woods.
Right.
And seeing if there was any work available. And they said, "No, it's a dying art, kid. You should go do something else."
Wow. Well,
I heard that
a lot. Yeah, I heard that a lot in the 70s too. Like, it's never coming back. You missed it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you try to go to like J. Ward Studios and check them out, or?
No, I didn't. I sort of had the impression just from what I was seeing on TV that they were kind of over.
Yeah.
They did a few. They did a few. They were doing commercials at the time, but
mainly for Quaker.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they just were in tight with Quaker, and that's all they were doing. So
maybe they were Quakers. I don't know.
Not possibly.
Yeah.
When did you go? You went to school for art, right?
I did. I went to. It was interesting, actually. I did well in some tests. In high school, but so I had actually qualified for a 4-year state scholarship to anywhere I wanted to go.
Wow!
And I chose. I figured I would, before I went to art school, I should get my academics out of the way.
That's smart.
So yeah, I went to Pepperdine. Which was nearby, a small school just opening up in Malibu.
Malibu, yeah.
And the second year, I qualified for their Year in Europe program.
Oh, wow.
Which got me to Germany for a school year.
Wow.
And that meant that I was able to see museums and stuff that I would never have seen if I had stayed in California.
Right.
And, also discover like social democracy and stuff like that.
Sure.
Right. And it was an interesting time, actually, because that was like 73 and 74, and Watergate was happening.
That's right.
And I remember going to a Fasching, which is like the German version of Carnival, and they had political floats, people drinking schnapps on the street, just like knocking it back, sure. And here comes a float of Nixon. Bare-assed in a boiling cauldron labeled Watergate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. America.
Did you when you? I'm sorry. When you saw that, did you break out laughing, or what was it?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I came from a family of yellow dog Democrats, and they were politically active people. I remember Alan Cranston in our house for some kind of event.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, he was like senator forever.
Yeah. Wow.
And so anyway, I came back with that in my head, and unfortunately, because Pepperdine didn't really have an art program,
right?
When I came round to Art Center. I didn't have a portfolio, so I couldn't get in.
Oh, so
and they told me,
yeah,
look, why don't you take one of our weekend classes, and you can, get a portfolio to happen. And I took a class. It was a drawing class, and the teacher was a guy named Richard Hebner, who was the head of the illustration department. Because I was naive, but I wasn't dumb.
Right.
So he saw my work. He saw what I was doing in the class, and he said, "Why aren't you in the day school?" And I explained, no portfolio.
Right.
And he took me around to get me signed up to start the next semester.
Wow.
So I did like a year and a half at Art Center before I ran out of money.
Right.
And in one of my last classes, the teacher was a guy named Guy Deal.
Oh, yes.
And he was, and he was a layout guy at Disney.
Yeah.
And one day he brought in all these weird looking drawings. They were like long and they were all in blue. And I didn't quite, pick it up that I was looking at Disney layouts for the Rescuers.
Wow.
But he started telling us about this animation course that they were teaching at the studio.
Right.
And it was like the ring closed. This was obviously how I can, get my foot in.
Right.
So I grabbed him by the collars at the end of the class and got a phone number out of him.
Wow.
So I made an appointment with a guy named Don Duckwall.
That's right.
Yeah.
Long time Donald Duckwall. Yeah.
And I brought with me, I think, every second drawing I had done in that year and a half at college. That's my cat. He wants to know what the hell am I doing and not feeding him. Anyway, so it was like a huge pile of drawings. It was literally a foot thick.
Right.
Big drawings and little drawings and sketches and tossed up things and books. Anyway, I drag all this crap in to his office, and he spends an hour by the clock looking at it.
Okay.
And then he picked up the phone and called upstairs to the guy who was actually in charge of this training program.
Right.
And that was Eric Larson. And he lumbered down from the second floor. And he looked at everything that I had brought.
Right.
And it took him an hour. These, two old geezers. And they said, finally, well, this looks pretty good. Well, we're gonna present this to the board. Which was, I guess, whoever had time at lunch to look at portfolios.
Right.
And they said, well, we'll probably call you back in about a week. But I had come in on a Wednesday, and the review board always met on a Thursday. So they called me the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think I had a few more weeks left of that semester.
Right.
And as soon as it ended, I presented myself all shiny and scrubbed. And Eric put a pile of paper on my desk and said, you got a month, animate something for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like that, any help whatsoever, any guidance?
A little bit, but they showed me what I was supposed to do more or less with an X sheet.
Right.
And they didn't tell me that I would probably have an easier time if I worked on bottom pegs. So I did the first scene on top pegs.
Wow. Yeah.
But that test was 3 scenes and 2 pan moves.
Oh, wow.
And the one thing I came in with was the understanding of how a 4-legged animal runs. So that was impressive.
Yeah.
And I could draw funny. So they saw this thing, and I think they decided I had a knack for it.
Right.
So they said, well, we're going to give you another test. But I never got anywhere on the second test because suddenly the rush was on to finish Pete's Dragon. So they they pulled me off of that and onto cleanup.
Oh, okay.
So I still remember I was doing these huge close-ups on the 15 field paper that they used at Disney.
Right. It's nice paper.
Oh, it's great paper.
Yeah.
But I was having a very hard time figuring out how to flip the drawings, which would have sped me up, because I was only doing like one drawing a day.
Mm-hmm.
So Dale came down to see what I was doing, and I said,
Dale Oliver or Dale?
Yeah,
Dale Oliver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dale Bear was working at the studio at the time, but he was not a cleanup guy. He didn't have anything like a cleanup line.
Right.
So anyway, Dale came and looked at what I was doing. I said, if I could figure out how to flip the drawings, that would really help.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm left-handed, so it's kind of hard for me to see what people are doing.
Yeah.
And he clapped his hands to his face and said, "You're left-handed. You have no future in animation."
Wow.
Because
yeah,
I would never be asked to assist a right-handed animator because I would crumple the paper on the wrong side.
Oh my God.
So I got very careful about that when I did assist people.
Right. Surprised he said that to you.
Yes. It came from deep in his soul because he knew I was good.
Yeah.
But this would stop me.
That's
my ambition topped out at being somebody's assistant.
Right.
Right.
Weren't there? Yeah, but there. Like I'm a lefty. I'm just wasn't Ken Duncan was a lefty. He's a lefty too, isn't he? Ken Duncan.
He might be. Yeah. But Ken Duncan wasn't one of the 9 old men.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was not.
Right.
So anyway.
Okay.
When I eventually started animating my own scenes, there was no more of that nonsense.
Right.
And at that time, of course, because it was Pete's Dragon, I ended up meeting Don.
Right.
And
now Don was always the director of the animation for that. He came in. Yeah. He didn't replace any.
And his scenes are the best scenes in there.
Yeah.
The movie is unwatchable. But then, I think a lot of Disney movies are unwatchable. I've never been able to get past the titles of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fly into a rage.
That they just reuse scenes from the movie for the titles?
Oh.
And
no. I mean,
or just
it's just such a dumb derivative idea. Let's take Robin Hood and make everybody animals.
Right. Well, that was Ken Anderson, wasn't it? That was Ken Anderson's idea.
Well, it was the closest he could get to Chanticleer, which was what he really wanted.
That's right.
And of course, his Rockadoodle was as close as Bluth got to it. And I was in the meeting where he killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he said, I got to put a kid in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that, that cut the baby in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those, the problem is sometimes you make these compromises and then you totally blow up the material because it's like, yeah,
no, it's true.
Yeah. You're not being true to what the material was.
Yeah. And I saw that happen a couple of times. I saw that happen on All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And, part of my problem was I couldn't articulate something that would say, Don, I'm better at story than you.
Yeah.
But I think I am.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people were. Honestly, I think a lot of people were.
Yeah.
I left Bluth because we were working on a film that I wasn't very fond of, which was the Troll in Central Park.
Oh God, yes, and I wrote script on that.
Yeah, and
mostly because I threatened to quit if I didn't get an opportunity to write something.
Right.
And I wrote all these. I wrote a lot of these scenes with the Troll King and Queen, and I wanted the Troll King to be as quiet as possible while saying these cutting things.
Right.
But of course, what does Don do but hire the loudest actor in Hollywood?
Yeah. Charles Nelson Riley.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Charles Nelson Riley was good for certain things, but not.
Yes, but he was not the man you go to underplay.
Yeah. Yeah, everything was over the top with that guy.
Yes, and by then with Don, everything was over the top.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sort of thing he resorted to when he no longer believed in his story.
Yeah. Let's go back to Pete's Dragon a little bit, because when you were working on Pete's Dragon, did they assign you to one person to clean up these drawings, or were you just in a pool?
No, I was just getting whatever. I mean, I was not to be working on like a 20-second moving hold where every line has to be rock solid. You do not hire the newcomer.
Right.
But I've been in that situation a few times. And actually, one of the last things I worked on as a story artist was a Scooby-Doo
movie.
It was a Halloween thing, and they gave me the sequence with the black moment. Where everything turns around.
Right.
And they gave it to the last hire.
Right.
And they gave it to the person who notices that there are no layouts, and they don't really know what's supposed to happen in the sequence. I think they just crossed themselves and handed it to me.
Yeah.
And the only thing they said was, don't do a rack focus, because they didn't do that in the 70s. Wow. So it was, let's open the old toolbox and blow off the cobwebs and, do everything old school, which was fun.
Yeah.
But, I had, oh God, what did they had that girl band and a musical number. I mean, the kitchen sink, the villain rides a motorcycle through a hotel hallway, and then a bunch of ghosts appear.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And they were just lucky I was an old timer, because I discovered the one thing about characters in Scooby-Doo. They are not designed to be animated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're more illustrative. Yeah. Yeah, not
they are
animatable.
Yeah, they are designed to be sort of slid around, but they're not animatable characters.
Yeah. Being that they were Hanna-Barbera, so
yeah. So you're only going to see them from like two angles anyway.
Right. Going back to...
Right, back into Pete's Dragon.
We're going back into Pete's Dragon. When you finished up on Pete's Dragon, because that was from what I remember, because I wasn't there, but from what I heard was there was a real push. I guess there was no money. Ron Miller didn't want to like really fund it as far as the animation went, and he pressured Don to kind of get it done for a specific budget. So, what was there like a real push at the end there, just trying to get the animation out? And
I don't remember anything managerial, but they also weren't like, I think the training program was suspended until we all got onto the small one.
Right.
And that was also Don's thing.
Yeah.
And that was specifically as a training exercise, because as many people have noticed, it's not really an animated story.
Yeah.
You could do it with a couple of kids and a donkey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you had a budget to actually have this wonderful scenery behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah.
But it was it was my first crack at animation. Where I got a taste of working with Don.
Right.
Because I wanted to get scenes. So I was, I remember doing a couple of tests, the donkey, before they had quite formalized the design, and showing them to him on his moviola, because we had these like things from the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Were
Were there still sweat boxes at the studio?
Yeah.
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 So you'd go into this small room and just sit down and watch.
Yeah, on the third floor.
Wow.
But the first thing I did were a couple of scenes with the kid and the donkey walking into the town. Mm-hmm. And we had shot some live action for it. And I had to rotoscope it. So my first experience in animation was on the rotoscope.
Right.
That room-sized one that they had up there.
Right. Did they actually use Sean Marshall, who was the voice? Did they actually bring him in
I don't actually remember.
Right.
Any kid, I would still have to turn him into the kid in the film.
Sure.
And, it wasn't an acting scene. It was just basically a walking scene.
Right.
But I remember looking at the drawings about 6 months after I had done that and being so appalled by their quality that I made away with them and put them back on my desk and tried to make them look better.
Right. Well, it's kind of, I guess it truly was a learning experience.
No, it totally was.
Yeah. Because you're trying to grasp the movement and stuff, and that seems to be the focus, but then you got to get the drawing going, and
you have to, I was pretty good draftsman coming out of school, but all that went away for about 5 years.
Yeah.
It took 5 years to get to the point where I could put on paper what I wanted to see.
Right. Yeah. Was there any I know when I started at Bluth, I've been doing TV stuff, and maybe a little bit of animation, a lot of layout and stuff like that. Yeah. When I finally got to Bluth, I was scared to death. Because we were in Burbank, across from the NBC, in this little building, West Olive Inc.
Yes,
a couple of blocks away from Warner Brothers too, and Disney was down the road. Yeah, but when I came in, I was just like, I was sitting next to you. They put me next to you. I was like in between somebody else and you. I forgot who was on the left side of me, but you were on the right side of me. And it was just like we're all thrown into this whole...
So I was like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other.
You were very, very kind and you were very helpful. And we used to talk a lot, you know, and then they moved us up to the other studio. But I'm telling you, the one with the cat permeable ceilings. That's right. Cats falling through the ceiling. This was across from the airport.
Yes. We saw the Blackbird in that studio.
We did.
Yeah.
The stealth airplane flying right over the studio.
I ended up marrying a guy from an aerospace family, so he had actually worked on the F-22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I told him I'd seen these planes, he knew what that meant.
Yeah. Well, they felt like they were only 100 feet away from us.
Yeah.
This happened. We were all in the parking lot watching this thing, and if there was a malfunction, West Olive would have been up in smoke, you know.
Along with, pretty much everything in that neighborhood.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Interesting. Okay, so when you got to Disney, how'd you feel when you got there? Because I'm telling you, I was scared to death, but I was just like, this was like where I wanted to be. I wanted to be doing feature animation at Bluth. But when you got to Disney, was it some people say it was like a religious experience for them when they went to work there?
Well,
or were you scared, or were you, you're mesmerized, or maybe at the same time you were like, yikes, I'm here. And that's great.
Well,
and then,
don't forget, Darth Vader had told me that this was my destiny.
Yes. That's right.
If you could imagine Darth Vader as, a Jewish guy with a high forehead. No, I did believe that I was supposed to be there.
Right.
And, that's perhaps one of the reasons I'm so hard on the product.
Yeah. Well, that's good, though.
Yeah.
That's good, though.
I will say that, I haven't actually been to Disneyland since about 1976.
Wow. The place changed.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's unrecognizable.
No, there are things that are still, you walk into the place and it's still, you can still feel Walt Disney's influence. And then there are other parts where it's just kind of like it's become something else. And it's that part is too bad, but obviously that part.
Well, when you buy these big franchises,
that has nothing to do with Disney. It's just
but it's it's a form of exploitation that's wagging the dog these days.
Mm-hmm. I know other people that have just stopped going to the park. Because they say the same thing. They say it's not the same. Not the same.
For me, it was I had a job there, and I was doing watercolor portraits in New Orleans Square.
Oh,
and we kept our materials in a kiosk across from a Small World ride.
Okay,
and I was working nights there. And when the park closed down, that damn song would just cycle and cycle and cycle.
Right.
And until I wanted to sock someone.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Maybe it's just my bad upbringing, but I have a really low cute threshold.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's the malign influence of Jay Ward.
Maybe. But
yeah.
But
because my dad would sit beside me and explain the jokes. sort of like being groomed for comedy.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there is when you go to a studio system that keeps the fun stuff to itself. What was that show? I was working at Film Roman on a show called The Oblongs.
Okay.
And this was a show that they brought in live action comedy writers to do the show. And if you wanted to put something in the storyboard that they hadn't thought of, you had to ask them.
Yeah.
And
you couldn't just do it.
Instead of going with my sight gag, because they didn't quite comprehend the concept of sight gag, instead they gave me another line that wasn't very funny.
Wow. I was storyboarding on Animaniacs, and we got to the point where, I would just throw the gags in. And
did anyone notice?
Sometimes they would say, take it out. And then sometimes they would say, no, that's funny. Leave that in. And I think they were fairly good about that type of stuff, but they wanted you to kind of milk the material. They felt comfortable with you milking the material. But sometimes it comes down to ego, Oh
no, totally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what show I was on where I added a bunch of stuff on the boards, and they told me to take it out.
Yeah.
Remember what the hell it was.
Was it a Disney thing or?
No, I don't think it was.
Oh.
But on the other hand, I got stuff into Dilbert, and that was another live-action comedy writer show.
Right. I think they're all live-action comedy writer shows. Yeah. Even South Park is like that. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were working on Small One, did you got screen credit for that?
I did. I got 100 feet into the picture.
So what was it? Was it 90 feet? Was that the threshold?
No, it was 100 feet.
Wow.
And all the women, all the women who animated on that show got 100 feet. So the 4 of us were promoted.
Wow. Nice.
It was.
Yeah.
Because I think we were the first 4 women to have that title since Retta Scott.
Right.
Do you have any questions or comments about the podcast? Please email Brian at cartoonerific.com. Your email may be featured in one of our future shows.
Hey! That was Linda Miller, and that's the first part of our 2-part interview. Part 2 will be next week, of course, so stay tuned for that. Well, every Tuesday night, we upload the Cartoonerific News, and basically, Marjorie hosts it, and she's doing a wonderful job with it, and a lot of people are liking it because they're coming back and they're listening to it. So if you haven't already done so, please check it out. Like I said, every Tuesday night, around 9 p.m. Eastern, a new Cartoonerific News is uploaded for your listening pleasure. So there you go. So please check that out. Anyway, if you haven't heard this, we are on YouTube Music, so you can check out all the episodes on YouTube. And if you don't like YouTube, there's plenty of other services. You got Spotify, you got Apple Podcasts, iHeart has them, and a lot of other ones host it too. So anyway, please go to your favorite service. Please hit the subscribe button, and this way you'll be notified every time a brand new episode is uploaded for your listening pleasure. Also, if you haven't told a friend yet, please do so. It's very important. Let share the fun. So let everybody know about the Cartoonerific podcast. We are also on Facebook, so please like us there and check that out because we upload some interesting cartoon bits from time to time. Anyway, I want everybody to have a great day. I want you to have an excellent week, and we'll see you all again next time. Take care, everybody.
This has been a Cartoonerific Studios presentation.
The Cartoonerific podcast is copyright 2024 by Cartoonerific Studios Incorporated. All rights reserved.